we've experienced what change looks like, and change can oftentimes be resisted by most. And yet in an entrepreneurial business like Keller Williams that we're in, we either lean into it and realize that that's the direction of visionary leadership, or sometimes that comfort model of what things used to be like.
We dig in.
Mom's front porch and biscuits and gravy and all other things that don't change in life, of traditional real estate might be the direction that someone would want to go.
Welcome to the Disruptance Podcast. Here are your hosts, Eric Forney and Michael Bounds.
Every week on the show, we aim to disrupt the way real estate agents and entrepreneurs think about their business and life. And Mike, this week on the show, I want to disrupt the way you think about corporate America and entrepreneurship. And entrepreneurship has been made to be sexy and glorified and trendy with Gary Vee's hustle culture and all of the other entrepreneur pushers. And I actually am one that doesn't believe that entrepreneurship is for everyone. In fact, I think that there are a lot of people who would be way better off being in a corporate environment. And we have unfortunately made entrepreneurship sexy at the demise of the corporate work culture. And I don't know that one is good and one is bad. Maybe one is different and the other is different. And depending on the person, there's opportunity for success in both environments. And so what I want to talk about today is what is the actual difference? And then what should you expect when working in an entrepreneurial company versus a corporate company? And those two things are very, very different. And that's why not everyone is a perfect fit for one of the other. And maybe even at times of your life, you're not a great fit to be in corporate culture or entrepreneurial culture.
You may flip.
That's right. And so let's understand, what's the difference?
You definitely have to be built for this. Like to be an entrepreneur, this is, and the problem is it's like you're walking into a fan and you don't even know that it's there. Like, because when you start this journey, I came from a corporate perspective.
Yeah.
When you go to school, we've been conditioned to be employees and to be corporate. So the hardest part of this job is transitioning the mindset from a corporate mindset to an entrepreneurial mindset.
What's the difference for you mindset wise?
The minds from a mindset perspective, the biggest difference is you have to take action. There's nobody going to tell you what to do.
Yeah.
Whether you're successful or not. There's nobody to complain to. You can't say that nobody trained you. All that is on you.
Yeah.
And once you realize that I grew up, like I lost my parents at an early age. And so I had that safety net feeling kind of yanked out at the age of 19. That's kind of the feeling that you get when you're an entrepreneur, because I was able to make that transition, because a lot of agents that I talk to, when I talk to them about any of their failures in the past, there's other people involved when in all reality, when you're an entrepreneur, there's nobody really to blame but yourself.
Yeah. So there's so much good stuff in there to unpack. And, all four of us have recently read a book that's actually a really, really good book. In fact, if someone's interested in being a part of an entrepreneurial company or being an entrepreneur, I highly recommend the book. It's called the Team Success Handbook.
Great book.
From the Strategic Coach organization, the Team Success Handbook. So we'll pull out a couple of nuggets from this, because I think there's a lot of really good content, and it's super short read.
Easy read. You can read it in 2 hours. I mean, not even that.
I read it on a plane and highlighted it. I don't know that I've read a book in one sitting ever. So some of the things to unpack in what you said, I think that are valuable for people to know one way or the other, is the idea of management. And when you're an entrepreneur, if you're a solopreneur or in a startup or a mid-size entrepreneurial value company, oftentimes there's no middle management.
Yeah.
It's you with a job responsibility, and everyone. The responsibility is the success of the company, period.
Right.
Even if it's not your job responsibility, the success of the company is the responsibility of everyone when you are in an entrepreneurial company.
Right.
It's not my job. It's not my lane. I don't know how to do that. Maybe that's true.
Yeah. In entrepreneurial, so when an entrepreneur, if there's trash on the floor, if you're the owner,
That's
you
right.
pick it up.
Yeah.
If you're in a corporate and you're the CEO of a business, that's the janitor's job.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right.
That's the difference.
Yeah.
When you're in a startup of entrepreneurial team setting, you're picking up the trash, you're cleaning out the toilet, you're doing all the things you have to do in order to make the business hum.
I feel like it talks in the book too about like everyone putting in the time and effort because everyone is like married to the results and excited about the results. So it's like not having that mentality that like, I'm too good for that. You're like, oh, does that need to be done and I can do it right now? Then I'm going to do it.
You know what reminds me of listening to you was the idea of like being a parent. Because at the end of the day, like as a parent, like it is your responsibility. You have actually no choice. The survival and health and safety of your child depends on you to do it, whether or not you want to.
Right.
Right. Like do I want to spend the time every day before bed ensuring that Hudson takes a bath? No. But do I have a choice? No.
It has to be done.
That's right.
Yeah, I know.
So it just gets done because there's no other choice, right?
Right.
And that's what it's like to be in an entrepreneurial company is when the success and safety of the organization is your primary mission, then your choice is not whether or not you will be managed, but will you be doing it or who will ensure that it's being done? And if not, it falls back on you one way or the other.
Right.
And that's different though from corporate America where it's almost, to your point, is you're taught in school or maybe groomed school-wise to follow a structure and to have a lane.
Yeah.
And in a corporation, it's almost like being an elementary student again or a middle school student where you have your roles and responsibility and the teacher has its roles and responsibility. Principal has a role and a responsibility. The janitor has a role and responsibility. There's division of labor and there's not a whole lot of crossover in that division of labor.
It's so funny. So, and it goes beyond school, like from a perspective of my grandmother has dementia. So every week I go visit my grandmother in a nursing home. So
Does she remember?
I'm sorry, how
Does she remember that you go visit her every
She
week?
does not.
Okay.
She does not. Every time I go, it's like a surprise. She
Okay.
totally, I bring her ice cream. I bring her a Blizzard.
I wish
She's like,
that almost sounds like so peaceful to me. It's like the ability to not remember a lot of things.
And she
sounds
remembers back
amazing.
back in the day.
Oh, okay.
And so when I was younger. And
Yeah.
so what she does is she always imparts this wisdom on me.
Yeah.
And she says, Mikey, because I'm Mikey. I'm still Mikey. Mikey, she's like, go to school, go to college so that you can get a good job working for somebody.
Okay.
This has been ingrained in me.
Yeah.
Ever since I was a little kid to go to college and to go work for somebody. So when you step out and you become the person that people are working for, it's a mind shift. You have to, so get mentors, get coaches, because you have to unpack all that stuff that I've been told since I was 2 years old.
Yeah.
And it's been reinforced in our schooling. And the biggest thing is when somebody comes in and they come into my organization, they're partners. I have to change their mindset. You're not, because if you're an employee, you'll act like an employee.
That's
if you're
right.
a partner, you'll act like a partner. So
Yeah.
I call all the people in my organization partners.
That's right. So let me go the inverse of that then. If you have to unwind the programming and right now, millennial, Gen Z, hustle culture, the glamorization of entrepreneurship is gaining traction and popularity, right? So like we'll probably have the next culture of people will have had a little bit of a different programming than what you or I had,
totally.
because they'll hear that working a 9 to 5 is actually the terrible thing to do, right? Is that becomes the way to get clicks on YouTube, is to tell people that a 9 to 5 job is, enslavement of the American system, and that corporates are all greed and all the other poser YouTube trash that we've probably all come across. How do you then unwind someone's thought model who thinks that entrepreneurship is actually the path to freedom?
I think that you,
what would you tell someone who wants that?
It's just like anything. So some people are talented, some people are blessed to do things, and some people aren't. And just like 9 out of 10 real estate agents get into the business, and in my opinion, they get into the business because they bounce out of the business because they don't understand that it's a business. They come in thinking
it's a job.
It's a job.
Right. Yeah.
Right. To be honest with you, I feel like that takes care of itself.
Yeah.
But what I do think is going to happen is
if that could be avoided, is what I'm hearing you say.
It could be, but for people, so for example, for people like me that's been told their whole life, I aspired to work in a factory.
Okay.
I wanted to work in a factory. I wanted to be rich like my grandfather and die working in a factory for 30 years. Now, granted, there's nothing wrong with that.
That's right.
But just saying right now, the way factory work is doing, I wouldn't, factory isn't for me.
Yeah.
So what I think is happening, there's a bunch of people that work in a factory that are entrepreneurs.
Okay.
They could have been entrepreneurs, but they've never. I've been blessed. I had a grandfather that I was able to kind of see him run a business.
But is an entrepreneur for everyone?
I don't think that it is.
Okay.
But I don't think we're working in other type of situations are either.
And this is why I say that one is not good and one is not bad.
Yeah.
Because they're drastically different.
No.
And like for you guys, Kate and Tyler, which, I guess, Tyler, you were in real estate. You were a real estate, I don't know. What are we going to call you? Were you a real estate agent or a real estate inside sales agent, I guess?
Yeah, I was an inside sales agent.
Well, and then you've obviously transitioned to doing everything else entrepreneurial. That's right. How much actual freedom do you get as an entrepreneur? Would you have more freedom in a 9 to 5? I'll take your silence as none.
I agree.
How much freedom would you get in a 9 to 5? More or less?
I would have more.
Way
because,
more.
Yeah.
Because
Way
it's like
more.
you clock out, and I feel like
And you
you
have to
don't.
think about it.
Yeah.
When was the last time you guys clocked out of work?
That's a good question. I probably the last time you when you got fired was probably the last time you clocked out.
Right? I'm with you.
Yeah, it was. There is really no. It's different because it doesn't feel like work at times.
That's right.
Sometimes
because
it
it feels like life.
Yeah. Exactly.
That's the difference. There is no work-life balance. It's called life.
It's just
when you're an entrepreneur, right?
It does feel like a lifestyle.
Yes.
Where it is some people get it and that's great, and then other people don't, and that's fine. I don't expect people to understand it unless they've tried it, and that's why I probably feel like we're all talking together is because there's like a mutual understanding of like what the grind is like,
what it is,
and just dealing and with putting out fires that you weren't expecting, and waking up and you're like, oh, I've got to have to deal with this now.
Yeah,
and it is something different.
I mean, I was on vacation last week, right? And it's funny because I was talking to one of the guys that used to work with us on the team, and he was like, "Oh man, that's crazy! You're on vacation this week. I didn't know you took vacation." And so that tells you how frequently I take vacation, right? And I didn't leave. We were at the beach. I spent about 10 minutes at the beach in 6 days, and I didn't leave the house for 2 because I was working. And so if that's not
structure,
if that's not the lifestyle you want,
it's structure. In corporate, you have the ability to compartmentalize your life.
That's right.
So like I can work from 9 to 5. I get to clock out. and I don't have to think about it. And on the weekend, I don't have to think about it.
So how would you do this if you were a spouse and one spouse is corporate and one spouse is entrepreneurship? How, to me, that seems like it works. Like if everyone is in the same environment, I get it.
It's hard. It's hard, bro. It's hard. Like I remember like going from being a salesperson and having a person that my last, was hourly, and she never understood that concept.
Yeah.
And being a salesperson and being an entrepreneur is like on like another level.
Yeah.
And so it's a challenge. It really is.
The challenge is, I think you used the right word. For me, the challenge is compartmentalizing.
Boundaries. Does your therapist say anything about?
I learned all about boundaries. I'm good at them in everything except business.
I don't have any, but I've learned a lot.
I don't have any boundaries.
I have them everywhere except business. So I have not accomplished it in business
Hey, you
yet.
know what? You guys set boundaries when you fired yourselves and your customers from listing photos, right?
Yes, that was big. Boundary wise, and it gave us it's the most freedom we felt like we've had.
Mentally.
It doesn't mean that we have complete time
What
freedom
did you
anymore.
get out of that freedom wise?
We had more time to focus on what we actually wanted to do. We didn't get into business at all years ago to do listing photos.
Yeah.
But as an entrepreneur, I don't have the book open right now, but one of them is talking about that entrepreneurs enjoy experimenting as they go and figuring out what works.
Yeah.
And that's what we had to do at the beginning. We didn't know how to use cameras necessarily yet. And so a huge way to practice was running 4 listings a day. And you're getting people skills, business skills. You get all the skills kind of along the way, but it was never what we were intending to do for our whole life. And once we kind of had the confidence to stop, and because we'd been experimenting while we were doing something we didn't love necessarily, once we had the confidence to go out and just do that, the freedom we got was the freedom to go after more work. We've always talked about if every year we're doing less of what we don't want to do and more of what we do want to do, then we're winning.
Yeah.
Even if that's slow.
I think that's important to take away, though, is that when you're removing friction from your life, you're actually finding more peace of mind. The peace of mind doesn't come by doing necessarily more things you enjoy. It actually comes from doing less of what you don't enjoy or less of that friction,
right?
In order to accomplish that. And so I think that maybe a couple quotes you were referring to is that entrepreneurs find security and opportunity, not in guaranteed paychecks. Entrepreneurs are interested in reality, not in theory. And those things are absolutely true. I think of someone who's interested in entrepreneurship, it's not go get an MBA and then you'll be qualified to become an entrepreneur. It might be, did you hustle sneakers at 12?
I have an MBA.
Yeah.
I have an MBA. I got the MBA from the School of Hard Knocks. Hey.
I was like, you do? I didn't know that one.
No,
I feel terrible that I didn't.
Look, I have a degree, and I do have a college degree.
Yeah.
But everything that I learned in real estate, and it's a degree in business management, I learned in business.
Yeah.
And like sometimes we get the cart before the horse. We think that the credentials gives us the credibility when in all reality, you gotta have receipts. And then you come back and then that master's degree actually validates what you have.
Perfect. So that's one of the other differences between entrepreneurship and corporate culture is that results are what matters.
Yeah.
In being an entrepreneur, and time, effort, and credentials matter in a corporate culture, right? And whereas when you're skating on potentially razor thin margins or small amounts of profit as an entrepreneur, the time and energy and effort and a degree doesn't pay your bills. And so what matters is results and the success of the company, because the success of the company breeds more results, which is more of what is needed in order to create more opportunity and survive.
That degree isn't going to pay my mortgage.
That's right. That's right.
So, I mean, I get it. I do. I think it's a way for us to like, we can actually like pick people at, oh, look, this guy has a degree or whatever. But at the end of the day, being an entrepreneur, you have to be results driven. There's people out there that don't have a degree, that don't have those receipts, but they are talented and they will drive your business.
So you've got to be results driven. And what about motivation? So it's a little bit different because I guess between Kate, Tyler, Mike, recently, Mike, you've taken over in a leadership role at the Keller Williams office here in Indy, and so in theory you have a manager, right? And whereas in Kate and Tyler, you guys are on the island by yourself. Is there anyone who pats you on the back and tells you, congratulations, keep going, you're doing a great job, stay motivated, Kate?
Almost never. Most of the time, anything I'm sending to someone, if it's a realtor, they needed it so badly that they don't have time to thank me for my efforts.
Well, thank you for that.
You're okay. I'm speaking more from my listing experience on that.
And Mike, how many times do you get patted on the back?
I get as many pats on the back as an entrepreneur because I work for you.
Yeah.
But the biggest thing, is like you have to, for one, if you need that, ask for it. And I understand that with especially with you don't just go out attaboys. Yeah. So like if I ever feel like, do I need to I also know you well enough to know that if I was messing up, you would tell me that I was messing up. So I almost take that as a compliment, if you will. So I'm kind of like, until he says something to me, I must be doing okay. And there's been one time where I've reached out to you and I said, look, how do you think I'm doing? And you said, I think you're doing okay. And I took that as
it's interesting. I hired a personal assistant here recently, and that was one of the tasks that I asked her to take ownership of was soliciting her own routine feedback. It was, I'm like, hey,
because I'm not going to give it to you.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. And it's not because I don't want to give it to you, or it's not because that I don't have any. It's because I'm almost always focused on something else. And I'm not saying that that's the right answer.
No.
If we were going to put a leadership theory handbook together, that wouldn't be not give feedback. It would be to give people feedback. However, it goes back to the difference between being a manager in a corporate culture versus being a leader in an entrepreneurial culture is job descriptions, annualized reviews, routine feedback. A lot of the systems, models, and tools that you would see in business theory oftentimes don't show up in an entrepreneurial environment. And so someone needs to be made aware of what's not going to occur in an entrepreneurial environment in order to thrive and be successful.
And I feel like those things come. Those are almost like creature comforts. So
how do you guys motivate then?
So
how do you stay motivated then? Without someone telling you attaboy and congratulations and participation trophies.
I'm sorry. I try to hire people that in the book, it did a really good job of saying batteries included.
Yeah.
Like if I have to for one, my job is I look at my job as energy. And if I have to spend energy motivating people, that's not a good use of my resources or my energy. So I try to mitigate that by bringing in people that I don't have to jumpstart.
Find those who are already motivated for more rather than to pull them along with you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like we're sitting out here looking at the lake and it takes more energy, more fuel to pull someone behind a boat on a raft or skis or whatever than it does just to drive the boat at a high speed, right? It slows everyone down when you have to pull someone else behind the boat. That doesn't work when keeping the company alive as an entrepreneur is your primary objective.
Yeah.
And so being part of, if you're not that motivated, or if you are motivated to have balance or to have compartmentalized life, nothing wrong with that.
No.
But an entrepreneurial company may not be the ideal company for you to work in if that's something you want. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Like I use my dad as an example. it was important. My dad never missed an athletic event or a function that I ever had in life. Like, dude is as dependable gets when it comes to like follow through and showing up, because that was important to him. And so him owning a business would have never allowed him to do that.
Yeah.
And that's perfectly okay. I think we've glorified entrepreneurship as something that is not.
I agree. I feel like there's people out there that really don't know what they're the red pill or the blue pill.
That's right.
They really don't know. And like when you really know, you're like, oh man, I would have so taken that red pill or whatever.
Yeah, that's right.
Yep. We were actually talking about something like that on the way here though, and I feel like it pertains to this, that really what you're saying in saying that there's not one that's good or bad is that you need to actually know yourself. And so like read this kind of stuff, even if it's not this book, is like actually know what is like resounding with you, or like what sounds right on either side of it. Yeah. Because like some people could think that they're not successful or they're lazy or they're not hitting goals, but like what if they're making goals that just don't fit for them?
Yeah.
And of course you're never going to achieve something if you're actually trying to live up to, like even your grandma's example was making me think of that. Like if you're trying to live up to what you heard in your childhood or anyone influential said to you, you might not hit that goal. And then you might think, oh, I'm lazy, I can't do anything. And it's like, but was that even your real goal? Like what's your real goal?
Another thing is like, I'm giving my wife is an example of this. She comes in, you're an entrepreneur. When you start a business, it's a mess. Man, it is a disaster. And so like everybody's is a disaster. And like my wife come in thinking it was like a well-oiled machine. And I'm like, nah, we are a mess. And not understanding that now I'm a well-oiled machine. Now but it's taking me time and practice and reading and coaching to get to the position. So yeah, if you don't have the chops to cut it in that sort of environment,
nothing's wrong
with that. Keep your corporate job.
Yeah.
Because read that book. If that book seems crazy, don't become a real estate agent.
Yeah. So again, the book that you're referring to, the Team Success Handbook, I think is absolute must read for anyone who's either going to become an entrepreneur or become part of an entrepreneurial company. And I kind of would define an entrepreneurial company as a company that makes a lot of rapid growth changes, one that's really ambiguous and fluid, one that doesn't necessarily know tomorrow what tomorrow will look like. A good example of that would be Facebook. When Facebook started, it was run fast and break shit. Mm-hmm. Facebook had to change now to be a much different company environment than they were when they first started, right? And so if you're in that startup phase especially, there's a high probability that you're an entrepreneurial company. Mm-hmm. Oddly enough, Keller Williams is still, I would argue, an entrepreneurial company, despite the fact that it is so big, and partly because Gary Keller, as a owner and CEO, is an entrepreneur.
Yeah,
and Gary changes directions quickly and regularly based on his vision for the future and the reality of the real estate industry, not necessarily based on theory and based on historical context. It's one of the things that I like about Gary, amongst many things, is that one, he's not committed to what worked in the past.
Right.
He's committed to what will work in the future.
Yeah.
And that's what I think is a big difference. And one of the challenges for corporate culture is that you have to oftentimes kill the golden goose in order to have a meal. Right.
Yeah.
And that can be a challenge, right? KW has gone that direction in saying that the direction of the future for real estate is technology.
Yeah.
Not the direction of the future for real estate is more real estate agents who have, world-class touchy-feely hugs and compliments.
Offices that look like banks.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. I mean, which other companies have that vision, right? Yeah. And so you have to be willing to believe and be convicted that the future looks a certain way in order to be a part of an entrepreneurial company, and then be willing to make that change. Not be stuck to what did work, but instead be willing to believe that what will work in the future is the direction to go now.
I love that. You're right. Gary Keller does that. And I love that Keller Williams is pivoting, just like the recent changes that have made here in the last few months. I've talked about this in the past. I'm sitting there at the checkout at a grocery store and I see a TV guide, and the TV guide is a magazine.
Yeah.
I told this story, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Like they literally, when I was a kid, a TV guide was the only way you could watch TV. And guess what? Now you have menus on your TV and people don't watch TV. So guess what? TV guide had to reinvent itself.
That's right.
And so what they did was they made themselves into a tabloidy magazine and now they're able to still survive. That's what an entrepreneur, if you were a corporate bureaucratic, guess what? They would still be printing off the guide to your television and they would go out of business. So you have to have that in your business.
You know, Mike, when we look at, we experience this, the change reality, a lot in our business. Change is certainly not something that everyone welcomes in a larger organization. You know, we're a 100+ agent company, and we've made a lot of changes in the last 15 months, especially in light of a pandemic. Right? We changed what I believed was an antiquated real estate model, and by that I mean there are a lot of holdover things that have been done in our industry for a long time that weren't necessarily benefiting anyone. And certainly weren't benefiting our agents as business owners. And I made those changes, and not everyone loved them. And part of the reason why we don't love change is not necessarily because it's not the right thing to do, but because we get comfort and certainty and consistency in the way things have always been done. Yeah. Right. And so one of the changes that we made was eliminating retaining earnest money and collecting earnest money. Who's writing checks in 2021? I have no idea. However, our industry has widely accepted that someone would write a check and hand it in person to someone at a real estate office to hold in a separate bank account until a closing transacted. That to me is the most antiquated, ridiculous idea that I could come up with, that is no different than walking into a bank and getting cash rather than swiping a card or using now your phone to pay for the exact same transaction. The last thing I would do is carry change or checks. And so why we would still pay for that and disrupt our agents' time and money didn't make sense to me.
Right.
And so we've experienced what change looks like, and change can oftentimes be resisted by most. And yet in an entrepreneurial business like Keller Williams that we're in, we either lean into it and realize that that's the direction of visionary leadership, or sometimes that comfort model of what things used to be like, the mom's front porch and biscuits and gravy and all other things that don't change in life, of traditional real estate might be the direction that someone would want to go. Neither is right and neither is wrong. I think it a lot of times just depends, which person are you?
Yes.
Do you want to be disruptive? Do you want to be innovative? Do you want to have it be a lifestyle where business is part of who you are? Or do you want to have a business hat on and take it off at a certain time of day, put it back on at another time? Neither of them right or wrong. There's a massive difference, though, between being an entrepreneur and being in corporate culture. I think we could talk about this topic for hours, and maybe we'll do that next week. More differences between the two cultures, but the biggest one is, I think, for people to take away is it's okay to work a 9 to 5. It's okay to be an entrepreneur. Neither of them are better or worse.
Sometimes I daydream about it.
Right?
Sometimes I'm just like, man, if I could just clock out right now and just be done.
And yet you wouldn't do it.
Memorial weekend. I'd love just to go out and be excited about
just get like a hall pass
weekend
or something.
And just, yeah, exactly. Just be like, all right, I'm out. I'm going to use some of my paid time off because I got to. Otherwise,
paid time off.
Use it or lose it.
Yeah, you mean you don't have paid time off as an entrepreneur? What do you mean?
So that's what I'm trying. It's like sometimes I'm like, man, that would be nice. But then I know like, the moment I'm like, I'm like, okay, so,
have you ever gone down that rabbit hole with paid time off before as an entrepreneur? Like that's the one that I realized, like, and going on vacation.
I got to work on that.
I'm like, man, this is the most expensive vacation I've ever taken as an entrepreneur. Yeah. I had to pay for the vacation, right? Yeah. That's normal. Like in corporate America, you have a vacation, you pay for the vacation, right? And that's it.
Right.
Now, as an entrepreneur, you pay for the vacation, you pay for somebody to cover your job while you're gone, so you got to pay that person, and then you pay for whatever business you lost or revenue you lost while you were out, or whatever mistakes or challenges or issues came up while you're gone. You're like, man, that's a 5X vacation I just took. I should have left the country and gone on an African safari for the amount of money it cost me to go on that vacation.
Yeah, it's hard. Like, and when I was an employee, I very rarely took vacations. I was that guy that I worked all the time. But this is the thing. I have an assistant, I have a really good crew. And so now I'm actually not working as hard.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can definitely take steps too.
Yeah, absolutely. Like it's just right now we're talking about like the startup phase.
Yeah.
The part of the startup phase.
Sometimes you get pulled into the startup phase, even when you're not.
So you get out of the startup phase and then you get back.
You get knocked back in it.
Or you figure one out and you're like, I'm going to do something else again. This is I'm too comfortable.
I'm good at that one.
I better
do
start
that one, Mike, where you're like, oh, everything is going really well. I probably should jump in here and mess something up.
Now that it's all smooth,
let's rebrand. We should get a new logo. Maybe we should start a podcast.
Normally, I don't have that problem. Normally, I get thrown back up in the startup phase.
Like Tyler's starting a podcast about playing cards or something. Oh, everything's going well. I'll start a podcast.
I'm doing just fine. One thing that I do love in that book was about how it's like how you have a high tolerance for risk and also going after opportunities versus paychecks. And I do feel like I've learned that just from like documenting you guys for a couple of years now, is then I've like been able to see like just different businesses operate. And then I've been able to see different real estate agents across the country even, or just different businesses handle risk differently. And then you can definitely tell the difference between people that embrace it and look forward to taking a risk and new opportunities than people that are just trying to use it as like a benchmark to like, okay, once I get here, then I'm going to be
check
blank.
That box.
And then, but then I feel like where it's different, at least like in my experience working with you, Eric, has been like, you enjoy the like, let's just go for it and see what happens. What's the worst that could happen?
Yeah.
And then it's usually like, oh, I'll just lose money. Well, we can make money. So it's, and in my opinion, it's always like, why not try something? If you've got like a gut feeling that like, hey, there might be something here.
Yeah. You just had your loss as much as possible. And then for me, what I've looked at and said, okay, is do I get to work with people? Like to me, it's a people gamble always. It just says, okay, do I have the opportunity to work with people and learn from people that I think will benefit my life from learning, experience, position, money, all of those influential things. And if the answer is yes, then it's probably worth it if I can minimize my downside loss. And then if it doesn't work according to plan, then I bet I learned something.
Yep. What's the worst that can happen? You just do something.
We lose. Like I'm out the time. That time will go by with or without me doing that though.
And then since in being an entrepreneur, then I feel like after having done it for 5 years now, you start looking at things with a filter of opportunity, not necessarily as like, oh, well, this might cost or this could do this. It's more like, well, there's a problem here, so it's an opportunity. Yeah, there's an opportunity for something like that, especially going back to what you just said, like, is there an opportunity to work with somebody like this, and then we could turn this into that, and then this could become this, and then imagine if.
Absolutely. I mean, look at the PayPal mafia. Look at PayPal. That's basically what happened was Everyone within PayPal has become wildly successful and entrepreneurial after working together at PayPal because they work with more successful, driven, intelligent people to make magic and continue that. Drastically different than working in corporate culture. Neither of them better or worse.